You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 370 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carzino.
And we are coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks.
Hello!
It's good to be here.
I feel like 370 is an important number. I'm trying to think of what that number is.
Well, it's the curse of 370 from Football Outsiders.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. So this is the, wait, who's the Larry Johnson?
Yes, Larry Johnson was the famous curse of 370 player.
Okay, I knew that there was a number 370. We both came, that was pretty quick. That was like the fastest recall of a sports player in a long time.
I don't know if it necessarily was the fastest. Also, MS 370. I don't know if that's too soon, but
the flight that disappeared. I think that actually might have been the one that I was thinking.
It does seem more plausible when I really thought about it.
I don't think it's too soon.
Okay,
I think we're fine. I watched a documentary about it while I was on a plane. We're good.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
Curse of 370 is also a 370 reference.
Well, an important episode. We're also getting into the defensive lineman territory now.
We are.
We're moving out of offensive linemen.
We're soon going to get into the Michael Bennett episode. We're not there yet, but
this is low key kind of the Michael Bennett episode
because of the discussion that we're going to have later on in this very podcast.
Bennett episode of the Peltoncast
with third Pelton brother Jake One. So stay tuned for that one. Going to be quite enjoyable. But for now, I think we should get into it with this week's beer, which comes to us from our friends at Old Schoolhouse Brewery. I want to call it brewing, but it's actually Old Schoolhouse Brewery in Winthrop, Washington, home of the Winthrop Ice Rink. This is the Rude Awakening IPA, which weirdly they call on the website a double IPA, but also say it's an American IPA, and that's where the category it's gotten awards in. So
which one is it, Old Schoolhouse Brewery?
I don't know who you just became there.
It's a Clone High reference. Original Clone High.
Oh,
I do not stand by new Clone High.
I thought the first episode was good. Haven't gotten any farther than the first episode.
I do not stand by new Clone High. I'm sorry. It was one of those ones where it's like,
maybe they shouldn't have brought this back.
For my own happiness of the show Clone High, I might just want to let that one live in time.
Fair. A big, bold American IPA with plenty of piney, citrusy, and floral Pacific Northwest hops that completely overwhelm its medium malt body. That's weird to use overwhelm as a positive in this case. That has been our signature destination beer, named after the founding family of Old Schoolhouse Brewery, apparently the Rude family.
It completely overwhelms the other flavors.
If what their equivalent of the Fabulous Baker Boys is, right?
What is that?
The Fabulous Rude Boys.
Wow. Can you get it up?
Not expecting that reference to occur on today's podcast, but here we go. It's always an unexpected journey.
All right. Well, I guess cheers to Larry Johnson and whatever happened.
Yes. The podcast that Bill Simmons and Chuck Klosterman recorded talking about the MS-370 theories. We have a number of toasts this week.
Every time you see MS-370, it really sounds like a gang.
It does, yes. I agree with that. It's MS-13, right?
Yes.
We have a number of toasts this week because we are into hashtag All-Star season.
Oh, okay.
And while there are 0 Mariners All-Stars to toast at this point, we do have some other ones. But first, we start with congrats to the 5 Oil Reign players selected for the U.S. women's national team's roster for the upcoming World Cup. Defenders Alana Cook, Sofia Huerta, and Emily Sonnet, who also plays midfield for Oil Reign, plus midfielders Rose Lavelle and Megan Rapinoe making the roster despite her recent calf injury. So very exciting. A lot of Oil Reign representation. Maybe not great for Oil Reign during the next month and a half of action.
No, it's a month and a half.
Well, the World Cup doesn't actually start until, I believe, July 20th.
There's a World Cup this year?
Yeah.
All right, let's freaking go.
Did you not catch that when I said they were selected for the World Cup roster?
I thought that was just like
just a general World Cup
down the road at some
no,
point.
It's coming up here. It's
This
next
is
month.
like me before I knew anything about soccer, and I would like June would roll around.
And the World Cup is on.
I remember this in 2006. I'm like getting a beer or whatever at the corner store, and I'm like, oh damn, there's a World Cup this year. It was Ronaldinho was on it or whatever, and I was like, well, I'll be damned. Hope Italy's in it. And back then they were.
They even won it in 2006.
Back in those days, they were almost always in it.
But the USWNT began their training for the World Cup on Monday. So,
I honestly liked the World Cup better back then, when I would just randomly find out that it was happening.
But what about the Women's World Cup? It was not as big of a deal back then, certainly.
Kind of the same.
I guess that's true. Congrats to Matty Beniers, who was voted the winner of the Calder Trophy.
There we
as
go.
the NHL's Rookie of the Year. He is, believe it or not, the first Kraken player to win the honor.
That is huge. That's really big. Out of all the years that the Kraken have existed.
They've waited a long time for this one.
Do you know where the number 1 pick in the draft this year played last year?
Thunderbirds?
He was Regina Pat.
Oh.
Yes.
He was in the WHL, though.
Yeah. Well, I just said Regina. That's all I saw. But I assume that it wasn't one of the other fine
I don't think
programs in
there's,
Regina.
I mean, I know Toronto has like a minor league team and the Maple Leafs. They have the Marlies, but I don't think it's like that in Regina. It seems unlikely.
Congrats to whomever that was who was the first pick in the NHL draft.
Not an official toast. Congrats to Jewel Lloyd.
Do not count that as a toast.
Peltoncast scholars do not record that as a toast. Congrats to Jewel Lloyd, who was voted an All-Star starter for the 3rd time in her career. She'll make her 5th overall appearance in the game to be played July 16th in Las Vegas.
There we go.
All-Star reserves announced later this week. Ezzy Magwagor has a chance to make it and make her All-Star debut.
Wow.
So
The Storm might have more All-Stars than wins.
they have more than 2 wins.
Is that true?
Yeah, they have 4.
Oh, all right.
At least one of them in the past week. Speaking of All-Stars, as I said, it's, again, All-Star selection season. Congrats to Jordan Morris, who was selected for the MLS All-Star team for a 2nd consecutive year. The MLS All-Stars will face Arsenal on July 19th. We tip our cap this week. It's not a toast, but we tip our cap to the Hershey Bears, who came back to defeat the Coachella Valley Firebirds in the Calder Cup. It's put the Calder
I was
Trophy
going to
in
say,
the Calder Cup.
can we also toast to the word Calder for being in the toast 2 times?
It's obviously the name of someone. You know that all of these cups
I understand,
and trophies.
but like this Calder person, really quite impressive.
Well, we're gonna have to look this up now. Just already a lot of references in this week's podcast. You were shocked though to see that Coachella Valley lost.
I thought it was
series in 7
done.
games.
I thought it was finished. How long did this matchup last for? I feel like they've been playing forever.
Well, was the last game the one that Randy watched while eating a taco burger?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I didn't know that Randy watched a game while eating a taco burger. Did he text us that he was watching?
He posted it on Twitter.
Okay,
that it was
sorry.
the brand synergy that you were hoping for.
Sorry.
You missed this? The Talking Taco Time Twitter has been quite active lately.
Has it?
It has.
Okay.
Even when I was like in New York and not checking it, that was not my main priority. That's when Randy was visiting 2 new locations. We're getting close.
Oh no, Randy's kind of on fire right now.
We need to do another Talking Taco Time.
I mean, he's getting down to the wire. He's the Calder of visiting Taco Time locations.
Oh my God, that's an amazing idea. When you visit, you complete your tour of all Taco Time Northwest locations, you get the Cote trophy.
The Cote Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be a cup. Yeah, you got to be able to drink out of it.
Yeah.
Using Taco Time ice.
Going to every single taco. We just decided it right here. Yeah, take that talking taco time. We did this on our own. It's called the Cote Cup. Whenever you hit every single, which I feel like maybe only Randy has done. And
No, someone posted on Reddit that they had done it.
Okay, so that person on Reddit.
Yep.
I'm guessing maybe the owners
You would assume. I
some
would hope
point.
the Tompkins have done it.
and Randy. They've all got the Cote Cup.
It's almost like, the list you keep of everyone that's eaten like a giant amount of food in a restaurant, and they like hang your picture on the wall. This
should
came
be-
up with Lincoln Kennedy recently because he's set the record for most sausages at Schulte's Sausage or something along those lines.
There we go.
This came up in the UW spring game.
That's really funny. His name is Big Link, so
I tell you, it
you
is
got to
very
eat a lot of
appropriate, yes.
sausages. At the White Center location, they should just have somewhere in the back, because that's the original Talkin' Taco Time Northwest location, right?
It's the original Taco Time Northwest location. The original Talkin' Taco Time location is my old house. And Jake One's place.
Yeah, actually, that's the first ever place that we... Okay. They should just have photos, headshots of everybody who's been to every single Taco Time Northwest
I'm
location.
also envisioning this a lot like the photo of Doug Forsyth. Was it Forsyth?
Doug Forsyth.
Doug Forsyth in The Good Place is the person who came the closest to guessing their system. Anyways,
Jeremy Bearimy.
Frank Calder was the first president of the NHL from 1917 until his death in 1943.
That makes sense that they named the AHL championship trophy after him.
I don't know how that particular honor came about. Yeah, it just says 2 trophies are named for him, and they both happen to be in this week's test.
Wow. There we go. Those
What
are
are
the
the
only
odds?
2 trophies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. Wow.
What are the odds?
Look at Frank Calder. That's a huge week.
Some 80 years after his passing.
But I do hate those Hershey Bears.
That's why you're refusing to eat Hershey's chocolate. even
Absolutely.
Going forward.
Yeah,
even after
no.
the series is over.
That's it. We're going full on protest of Hershey chocolate. I also just don't like the chocolate. So
Straight up chocolate.
really bad.
But now chocolate chips in cookies, different story. All right, next up, a toast to the NBA preseason returning to Climate Pledge Arena next fall with the LA Clippers scheduled to host the Utah Jazz on October 10th.
Wow, that's the Kevin Pelton Cup right there.
It very much is, yes. Lastly, this week we're
Is there? Let me ask you a question about this.
yeah.
So obviously, we all know that NBA to Seattle's done, and is there a chance? Are we getting to the timeline? Do you think that the NBA wants to announce it at like a special moment, or are they just gonna tease it out? Woj just gonna post about it some July.
I think, well, look, I mean, the story will be broken ahead of time. I'm not counting on, like, just, the shock of an announcement at halftime of this game. I don't think it is likely to happen this year.
The announcement.
Yes,
You think it'll be further down the road?
that is my
Do
anticipation.
you think one of these games might be when it happens?
It's plausible, but I don't know if it's necessarily the ideal timeline because also you have to, like, have a vote by the Board of Governors. They don't just announce things.
They can announce that they're going to have a vote, but the vote would happen in the summer most likely.
I mean, I think it might be plausible.
When they
that
stole the Sonics, that vote happened in April, right?
They have multiple Board of Governors meetings. One of them is towards the end of the regular season, and that's where the vote that they were allowed to move happened. Obviously, that was contingent on getting out of the lease, which didn't happen until July, which we're coming up on the 15th anniversary of next week. Hadn't thought about that date being so soon, but next
Wow.
Monday is the 15th.
So you just wanted to bring up that and Flight MS-370 on the podcast?
Wow, too soon. Next Sunday is
And
the
Larry
15th
Johnson's career. Thank
anniversary
you. Yeah.
of the Sonics movie, and so
He
we'll
was a
have to-
promising young NFL running back.
We'll have to bring back our Jake One interview that we did on the 10th anniversary.
July 3rd was the date, right?
No, I think it's July 2nd.
Okay.
Because I think there was like a day that day, then there was a day of a Storm game that I attended, covered, and then the 4th of July that year. So, pretty sure it's July 2nd.
What day did they drafted Westbrook on? Like
June 27th or something like that.
they drafted him before that.
Correct.
Okay.
Like the Thursday before, yeah. Yeah, so my guess is it would most likely be the Board of Governors meetings during the Summer League, which would also be an appropriate place to announce that because it happens in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So,
So this year or next year?
next year.
That obviously not. It's not happening in 2 weeks.
We
would know.
I do not
Okay.
think so, no.
So next year,
If
Summer
we're
League.
doing an over-under for when the announcement will happen, second week of July 2024 is the over-under.
Wow. So we're looking at 1 year until they announce basketball in Seattle again.
I mean, it's possible it could wait until the Board of Governors meetings, which are in October, around the preseason, but that strikes me as a logical time.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of incredible.
So we'll see. Nothing is done until it's done.
This is the first time you have not really pushed back on it being done.
Last time I didn't push back as much as I did the time before.
Every time you're getting worn down on pushing back. Is it because you're hearing things or you're just sick of...
I think I'm equally pushing back as the last time, but less than the time before that. And that's all I can say.
Oh, wow. That's a weighted not pushing back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Episode 370.
Peltoncast Scholars. We'll record this one.
It's the time Kevin Pelton didn't push back that much about NBA to Seattle.
Also, I don't know why I say Peltoncast Scholars. It's the listener. It's the scholar. Fabulous Pelton quotes. All right, lastly this week on more somber note, we are remembering Scott Pelluer, who played linebacker at Washington State before coaching at both Washington State and UW, 2 stints with the Huskies as an assistant coach. Pelluer died Monday at age 64 after suffering cardiac arrest.
And also grandfather to Cooper Pelluer or father to Cooper Pelluer.
Yeah, who played recently. So, yeah. All right, with that, I think it's time to look back on. Let's just fold the draft into my trip to the East Coast last week.
Okay, it's Kevin's trip to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have the music ready?
I've prepared a slideshow with my photos for the trip.
Okay.
Not actually. So, Thursday was the NBA draft.
Uh-huh.
We did the live stream. Trey Murphy III was right next to me on set. We did not sadly hang out afterwards.
Did you vibe?
Trey Murphy III was very down to earth. Came up to say hello. Like was hanging out. With
Wow,
him.
he said hello.
Well, like to introduce himself.
He was like, "Hey, I'm Trey."
Yeah,
and you were like, "Hey, I'm ESPN's Kevin Pelton, senior NBA writer."
Yeah,
you should have big time him. You've been like, "You don't know who I am."
Do I know you? Well, sorry about that. This is jumping ahead in the trip, but Friday night was at dinner in New York with, among others, my ESPN colleague Tim Bontemps.
Uh-huh.
As we were leaving the restaurant, he gets recognized. Our friend Eden asks the person, like, "Hey, do you know Kevin Pelton?" He's like, "No."
He knew Tim Bontemps.
Well, Tim's on TV.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on TV a lot, yes.
Hearing Jan try to talk about figure out how to watch this live stream, but she did not conquer while the draft was happening. She also, I don't know if she conquered the volume button on her computer, but her just talking about who was on the screen or whatever, I can't even say it because it was so offensive to every single person on the screen, including you.
Oh no.
And I was just like, Brian Windhorst is a very famous analyst. I was like,
she's not
memes about Brian. She's like, there's some guy, and I'm like, that's Brian. Put some respect on Brian motherfucking Windhorst's
Did she
name.
see the fingers? We were having a good time doing the fingers.
Okay,
the
anyway.
fingers were flying after that
You
Sacramento
said
trade.
it wasn't Trey Murphy you vibed with that much. It was...
Well, I didn't say I didn't vibe with him, but King McClure and I had we were on the same page.
You and King McClure.
We dapped him multiple times about my comparisons for players.
He liked that.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of King McClure before this, but...
Yeah, I mean, he played at Baylor and is a color analyst for ESPN, also does some studio work. So
is that national champion King McClure to you?
No, he was not on the national championship team. I think he played a little before that.
Did they beat Gonzaga?
They did.
I'm putting him on the team.
You're also claiming credit. Baylor is a we for that national championship.
yeah, no.
It's part of your favorite team.
I don't
Anybody
claim credit
but
for
Gonzaga.
Baylor in that many situations.
Good.
There are not that many situations I could stand. Look, the playing career of Robert Griffin, always.
Yes. Even the win over
Oh
UW
no, the win
Alamo.
over UW, that's a we win. Hey, just look, everybody watching the game won.
Fair. Like, which do we remember more? The Alamo game that UW lost, or the Holiday Bowl that they won like 10-3 over Nebraska?
Was that Nebraska?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I literally couldn't tell you a thing on that game.
Definitely put that one out of my memory and out of its misery.
That was the thing. I remember we were talking about this where it was like, if your only goal is to win, it's not necessarily approaching sports right. I'm getting too heady on this, but having that memorable game, it was a more important moment in Husky history than winning whatever Holiday Bowl you're talking, or Alamo Bowl.
Which was the year before. Yeah.
Against Nebraska.
I mean, how old do you even remember last year's Alamo Bowl?
Like, kind of. But that game against Robert Griffin, I will remember that forever.
Yeah.
It was
100%.
one of the best games in
It
Husky
was a
history,
moment.
and they lost.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't matter. You can win a bowl game, you can win a national championship and forget about it. Literally none of this matters. All that matters is what people remember.
I don't know that UW has not won that many national championships.
But you understand what I'm saying?
In,
Like, you
like,
don't
outside of
actually
crew.
get anything as fans.
Oh, that's true.
So when you're a fan, the thing that you get is the memory of the situation or whatever.
Yeah.
The fondness for that. And that's why losing the Super Bowl was better than... No.
Oh, no. It can't be a crushing loss.
That was actually a lot worse.
Partially because of the traffic home. And
Okay, so honorary Husky, King McClure, and you...
yes.
You all look low rows on his side.
I suppose so, yes.
You two were vibing there, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really fun event. Maybe the most fun I've ever had doing anything for ESPN.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't get to talk about the draft necessarily that much, and I love the draft. It's my favorite night of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
This draft?
I mean, the NBA draft.
Okay.
I don't know about 2023 specifically.
The NBA draft is your favorite night of the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, trade deadline is way up there.
Thanksgiving at my house or Christmas Eve at my house. No, I guess the draft is better. Whatever.
No one very
Seeing the
rarely.
joy on my children's faces doesn't mean that much to you, apparently. King McClure has joy on his face, and you're so happy. It's your favorite night of the year.
Yeah.
Dapped up with Trey Murphy, and then all of a sudden... Anyway.
No, went straight handshake with Trey Murphy. Just to be safe.
Handshake. Not even like
No.
it was formal handshake.
Oh, yeah.
It was like Barack Obama going through the line. Yeah. Okay. That's what about King McClure?
He did come in with a little bit of dap, so
Okay,
yeah,
that's
I had
good.
to follow his lead.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really kind of liking King McClure. I saw I found him on Twitter a couple days later, like totally randomly, and I was like, oh, this is that dude that Kevin was talking about. I was like, all right, I fuck with this guy. He's on like ESPN radio.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything from behind the scenes at the draft stream that we should know about?
Not really, no.
Let's talk Blazers then.
Okay.
Scoot, baby.
I think things fell well for them. There was, some drama earlier in the day.
Fell well. It was literally one pick that mattered.
True. Well, it was also them moving up to 3 in the lottery. There was some drama earlier in the day about whether Charlotte might select Scoot, but Woj came in with they never wavered in their belief in Brandon Miller, and Portland got Scoot Henderson.
What do we think about Scoot?
I mean, as we've talked about, my projections are not necessarily that effusive about him, but when you look at the type of players that exceed them, often they are really athletic guards who benefit from the floor spacing in the NBA. And he fits that mold, and I felt better after I looked it up because Ignite did try to add some shooting this year, but they still were dead last in three-pointers made during the G League regular season. So, you get to Portland and are playing with Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons. It's a different level of spacing that you're going to enjoy.
Okay. What about Keegan Murray's brother, who they took later?
Chris Murray, yeah. I don't know if he would have been my top pick at that point, but I think that represented a little bit of, so the official phrase of the Blazers right now is thread the needle.
Okay.
Which is, we're going to have Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson, and they'll be our future, but we're still going to try and compete now with Damian Lillard.
I love this. You've got Robbie Ray. You've got Julio Rodriguez.
Oh, no.
It's going to work.
Oh,
it
no.
can't not work.
More to come on that. So Chris Murray played basically the same role that Keegan played last. Keegan played it in 2021-22. Chris played it last year. Put up very similar numbers to what Keegan did. Maybe not quite as good a shooter, and probably not quite the athlete that Keegan is. But I think someone who can come in and be a role player right away.
I thought he was like a perfect Blazers player and can defend also. Correct.
Yeah.
I thought that was an awesome draft pick. I was pretty hyped on
My
Chris Murray.
comparison for him on the air was kind of like late career Trevor Ariza.
Okay.
Yeah. That's maybe a little better shooter than he is, but
Yeah. No, I love to compare like 21-year-olds to 38-year-olds.
he is not 21.
Well, how old is he? 23 at most?
He's 22, maybe 23. But
Still, late career Trevor Ariza was old.
yeah. But like early career Trevor Ariza was an incredible athlete, and Chris Murray is not at that level.
So what does this mean for the Blazers now? Thread the needle? Dame's not going anywhere?
He met him and his agent, Aaron Goodwin, met with Joe Cronin, the Blazers lead executive, on, I believe that was Tuesday. And then Cronin, released a statement indicating that they're continuing. They talked about, their plan to win in Portland and, continue to move forward with that vision. My assessment is that we will see the Blazers operate this week as if Damian Lillard is returning, which would mean aggressively trying to re-sign Jeremy Grant, potentially trying to use their mid-level exception to add to the roster. And then we will see how Damian Lillard feels after those moves are complete.
Okay.
If I were to give you a complete guess right now, I would say it is more likely than not that Damian Lillard is on the Blazers roster to start the season.
Should Damian Lillard be on the roster to start the season?
Zach Lowe had a rant the other day on the... Oh, man, I forgot my Zach Lowe reference earlier.
Oh my
Hold
God.
on, we got to double back on this one.
You got so excited. You said Zach is the most excited any person has ever been to say the word Zach Lowe.
Old Schoolhouse Brewery has on their webpage for the Rude Awakening IPA, which is quite good. I think this is
pretty good.
solidly in the top half of the IPAs we've had.
Yeah.
A quote from Zach Lowe
Really?
from Moab, Utah.
Oh, wow.
A home brewer, hops grower, and IPA lover. Rude Awakening is aptly named, for it gave us just that as our group of IPA aficionados tasted beers from around the country when we put Old School Brewery up next to the West's best IPAs, Stones, Odell's, New Belgium, Ska's, etc. It roused our taste buds from their slumber.
Roused our taste
Tens
buds.
across the board, everything we look for in an IPA: hop flavor, hop aroma, balance, smoothness, and most important,
Mascot.
decasherosity? I don't know what that word is. I've never seen those
Look, he
collection of
was a
letters
teacher for a while.
together in my life. Outscored, outdrank, over the top, and unfortunately under the radar. This beer is worthy of any IPA palate at any competition throughout the nation.
You've gone too far, Zach Lowe from Moab, Utah.
But for now, it's our little secret tucked in Winthrop, Washington. So I love the idea of Zach Lowe. His one beer that he allows himself at the end of the night is the Rude Awakening IPA. Or maybe a homebrewed beer.
Wow. Zach Lowe from Moab, Utah. He went a little too far.
This is the only reference on the entire internet to the word decasherosity. Decasherosity? I
What?
don't know. So it's
He's
something
making
that
up
Zach
words?
Lowe made up with his IPA buddies.
Zach Lowe from Moab, Utah
we gotta
made
get
up
this,
a word?
We gotta get this Zach Lowe on the pod.
I mean,
Let's talk about
honestly, I don't know if
IPAs.
I respect some of those breweries he mentioned. New Belgium.
That was his surprise.
That's what we're talking about? Come on, dude.
I don't know what to tell you on that
That's
one.
like craft beer V1.
So anyway, better than 50-50 in my analysis.
Okay.
Zach had a rant about, people saying what, in this case, what Damian Lillard should do, but to a lesser extent, what Portland should do. I mean, look, I personally, as someone who is invested in the Blazers, we talked about this last week. Having Scoot makes it so much easier to move on from Damian Lillard because you feel like you've got that next generation already in place. This isn't, I don't know what the Bradley Beal's, right? It isn't that. The other thing I was thinking about that I don't think anyone has mentioned in this, it is kind of funny that the Blazers have been kind of slow to, move on from Damian Lillard. I think that's a fair assessment, given that their ownership group just last year has an example of a situation where both sides kind of wanted to break up and they finally did it. And it worked out amazingly well for the Seahawks.
I am telling you this straight up. Damian Lillard is probably a better dude than Russell Wilson. And I think that is a lot of what it comes down to. I think Damian Lillard's just kind of a good dude. I think that the Seahawks, and they don't have a coach like Pete Carroll.
The biggest difference, yes, is that when the Seahawks made that decision, most Seahawks fans rallied around it because it was still the GM and coach who had won the Super Bowl for them. That is not the case in Portland.
It's just a different situation. Damian Lillard and
It's a
Russell
wildly
Wilson are
different situation.
different situation.
But it's not like when, like, even Blazers fans who are like, hey, this is good for the franchise going forward, they're still not going to be excited about a Damian Lillard trade. It's still going to be a bummer.
I think, again, coming back to what I said earlier, people are too fixated on this idea of quote unquote winning championships. And the reality is, are the Blazers going to win a championship if they trade Damian Lillard?
Probably not.
Are the Blazers going to win a championship if they don't trade Damian Lillard?
Probably not.
That's it. Is if that is your only goal, if that's it, is just to win championships, it is a Sisyphusian, it is a Decastrian, or whatever that word is. What was the word that Zach Lowe made up?
Decasherosity.
It is a decasherosity.
Decasherosity? I don't know.
Type goal. To just say that the only thing that matters is winning championships, because the reality is it isn't. And if that is your only goal as a team, as a front office, whatever, is just we're going to win the championship, like you're gonna feel failure so often. Right? The Blazers have failed at that goal every single year since 1970, whatever.
But what I would say is, if your goal is relevance, and I think that's a more appropriate goal, I think the Blazers are more likely to be relevant if they trade Damian Lillard.
I don't know if that's true. Because right now what you have is you have a team that has Damian Lillard. Relevance means a lot of things. Again, winning a championship in Miami as Damian Lillard, it doesn't matter that much.
I don't know. There's a proud tradition of he would play a bigger role undoubtedly if Miami were to win a championship.
Of getting an aged championship in Miami.
Yeah, for Oakland point guards, I was gonna say.
Oh, but also
Jason Kidd did not do it, but he did beat Miami.
Yeah, which fucking sucks.
Have you checked out Jason Kidd's basketball reference page in the past week?
Damian, are the Heat going to win a championship if they have Damian Lillard? Probably still not.
Yeah.
People need to cool the fuck off on this. I understand it's the entire culture of the NBA. It's the driving force of the NBA is this thing about rings, right? It is the lifeblood of the NBA. It is transactions and it's complaining about rings. That's it. That's what the entire league is based off of. People don't watch the games, except for you. Ironically, the person who is most criticized for not watching games.
Yeah.
Or nobody's watching most of these teams. They're just arguing about these things.
I made some reference to April basketball in the Dunked On mock off season. I forget which player it was who Taylor Horton Tucker, who I signed with the Spurs.
THT, baby.
Who then didn't picked up his player option as we were recording the podcast.
But the Blazers with Scoot and Dame and Shaden and Jeremy Grant, or whatever they're going to do with Anthony Simons, they'll just have a lot of dudes and they'll probably have an interesting year. And I actually believe that the Blazers maybe could thread the needle to relevance. And if Scoot is...
They can thread the needle to relevance.
If Scoot is a superstar, I'm not saying that's a likely possibility, but if Scoot is a superstar, Dame, as he ages, fades more to a role player role. You're telling me this can't happen. You're rolling your eyes at the idea of Dame being a role player.
No, I'm not rolling my eyes.
If they could play off each other, they could be a better version of CJ and Dame.
I mean, Scoot is not that kind of a shooter, first off. CJ McCollum is also an outstanding three-point shooter.
But also having a player who can attack the basket maybe better than CJ McCollum could. CJ McCollum was a mid-range player at his core.
Yeah. No, I think that's the expectation for Scoot Henderson. Yeah.
So if that's what you can do and have Dame as a shooter, this could work. People are too quick to just be like, 2 guards? No! But it's such a stupid thing, ultimately.
I mean, but part of the problem is, people are hung up on work. Chris Paul and James Harden worked together. The Rockets were the second best team in the league in 2018 behind a team that had Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson.
Most teams don't work because their players aren't good enough.
You know why it didn't work? It worked, but they weren't happy in those roles. And that's why Chris Paul got traded the next year, because James Harden demanded he get traded.
I think Dame and Scoot could work. I think Dame could actually grow into a role player. Dame is a distributor. Look, Dame is more of a distributor than most star scorers.
He's a distributor. I agree with that. I don't want to disparage Dame.
He's a great passer.
I don't want to disparage Dame.
He's not thing ever. He's most underrated at is passing.
Okay, fine. We're not talking about passing. You can't pass with the ball not in your hands. the whole idea that
You don't
Dame,
think he can move without the ball?
the whole idea that Dame was going to become like a Steph Curry, like activated, like dating back to when they signed Evan Turner, it's
They've
just never taken.
paired him with the right people. He's not Steph Curry. He's a different player. He's going to have the ball more than Steph Curry is. He's not going to be able to move around like that. But like,
The other thing is Dame has to embrace playing with younger players, and I don't think that's necessarily happened.
why is he there then? He's not stupid.
I agree, but I mean, first off, he might ask for a trade within
Yes.
the next week. It
But,
could
but
happen.
I'm also saying,
But second
Dame
off-
playing his entire career in Portland. Look, here's what. None of this matters. Winning a championship doesn't actually matter. None of this matters. But if you're talking about a career that is to be remembered, playing your entire career, Kobe got this. Kobe obviously won championships too.
Subert got this.
Kobe got this. Super got this. Sadly, Breonna Stewart didn't. Doesn't matter. It's fine. Have your 4,000 points or whatever in New York City. And
She seemed reasonably happy when I was there on Sunday.
look, we'll see. Just going there to get throttled by the Aces.
By the way, did I mention Subert and Megan Rapinoe were courtside at the Liberty game on Sunday, and introduced on the screen is sports legends was the description.
Kind of true.
Oh, not inaccurate.
But playing your entire career, I don't mean this to be an old guy take. This is the freshest perspective ever, because the old guy take is that all that matters is championships. What I'm saying is that
I think the middle-aged take is that all that matters in championships.
we need to remove ourselves from this concept of championships mattering. All
I don't
sorts
think
of
we
things
need to
matter.
entirely remove ourselves from that. Like,
But there are different things that matter
if
in sports.
if championships don't matter, then we're all paying attention to this for not much reason.
What do you mean? We're paying attention to this because the reason, if all that matters is championships,
not saying-
there's no reason to pay attention to the regular season.
There's a difference between championships don't
John
matter and
Marzano
all that matters is
punching Paul O'Neill. That is what matters.
I agree. We can just land somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of middle ground
Between
in sports.
John Marzano punching Paul O'Neill and championships,
And
because the Mariners
and-
have not come anywhere
and
near that
Super
other
Bowl
peak.
48.
Look, Super Bowl 48 is nice. I love it. Right? But there are moments that probably exceed Super Bowl 48 that happened. You know what I mean? I'm more nostalgic. I'm not nostalgic for a single play in Super Bowl 48. It was just it was a game that happened.
Jermaine Kearse scored a touchdown after you predicted
That's
it in like
great.
October.
Jermaine Kearse scored a lot more important touchdowns. I am more nostalgic for the catch that he had against the Patriots. That feeling of, holy shit, we're going to win back-to-back championships, because it was more exciting. I'm telling you, those things matter
Percy
more.
Harvin's touchdown
Championships are a fallacy.
Cam Chancellor's hit.
Which one? The only hit that I remember that Cam Chancellor had happened against the 49ers.
I agree
That is
that was also a memorable play.
That
but
is,
he
I
had one
remember
on, I believe,
Cam Chancellor picking off Cam Newton for 6, and that was a more important play to me.
it was
I don't even know what
Demaryius
you're
Thomas.
talking about.
He hit earlier in the game to
Just coming across the middle,
yeah,
not a relevant play. But
established a tone for the game. Also, the fumble or the safety on the
that
opening
is
play.
that is the most memorable play of the entire game. Was a safety that the other team had. Anyway, what I'm saying, something that matters is Damian Lillard playing his entire career with the Blazers, whether he wins a championship or not, being the greatest Portland Trailblazer of all time.
But I don't think that we should also say that like Damian Lillard needs to play his
I'm
entire
not
career
saying
with the
he needs
Blazers.
to. Like,
be...
GP is the most important song
Exactly.
of all time.
That's what I'm gonna
And
say.
he didn't finish his career here. But if GP had played 2-3 more years in Seattle or whatever, if GP had played a little bit longer, it might feel a little bit different.
But would you rather the Sonics had not traded Gary Payton for Ray Allen?
No, if
'Cause
Ray
that's a-
Allen is out there for to trade Damian Lillard for, let's do that shit right now.
Ray
But he's
Allen is
not.
not out there. I mean,
Teams are
he is out
smarter
there.
than
He's a
they
free agent.
were.
But the other element that teams are smarter than they were is that if you let it get too long, it becomes a Bradley Beal situation.
Bradley Beal is a complicated situation because it's a terrible contract. Bradley Beal's also hurt all the time.
Has a no trade clause, and he just is not as good as Damian Lillard at his
That's
peak.
the thing. You talk about this all the time, which is people can fade in their careers, but when you're starting in a really high place, you could fade and still be really good.
But remember
Bradley
that
Beal has never in his entire career been anywhere close to as good as Damian Lillard has.
I think there have been some years where he's perhaps been close, but he has never reached the levels that Damian Lillard has, even as recently as last season. What I would point out to you, though, is you look at the Damian Lillard
I didn't
extension.
realize we'd have such a long Blazers fight right now.
Me
This
neither.
kind of came out of nowhere. I thought we were going to fight about the Mariners and agree.
The Damian Lillard extension, like if you want to say a nice thing about Bradley Beal's contract, it doesn't grow as fast as the cap will, because the cap's going to go up like 10% year over year here with the new TV deal. Damian Lillard's contract that kicks in 2025 goes up to basically the max that he's able to make.
That's fine, because the Suns aren't going to win the championship either, and they're going to not win the championship with random players. You know what I mean? Devin Booker is there.
The point is not the Suns. The point is the Wizards, who could have gotten a lot for Bradley Beal, even as recently as the 2022 trade deadline, and ended up getting a lot of second-round picks and Chris Paul, who they flipped into Jordan Poole.
I don't know if that's how you can look at it, because there's always a moment with a star player when you can get a lot for that star player.
But there's also a last moment where you can get a lot for that star player.
Look, ultimately, if the Blazers trade Dame, I will still think that is a good move. I want Dame to be happy wherever he is. He is, since the Sonics left, the most important basketball player that I've ever paid attention to. Right? I care more about Damian Lillard.
Brandon Roy erasure.
Fuck Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy was great, but it was such a short period of time. Damian Lillard also is just a better basketball player.
Sure.
Obviously, not fuck Brandon Roy, but but it's not the same. I've had a lot more fun watching Dame Lillard than I have watching Brandon Roy in the last decade.
In the last decade? Like, you mean over the last decade compared to Brandon Roy's career?
No, literally in the last decade.
Well, yeah.
That's
Brandon
what
Roy
I'm saying.
hasn't played basketball in the last decade.
Brandon Roy is basically part of the 90s generation.
What?
Brandon Roy was not that much of a basketball player after the Sonics left. It was a short snippet of time.
Yeah, it was a short snippet of time where the team that we more or less adopted had Mr. Sonic as their head coach and maybe our all-time favorite UW men's basketball player as their star.
I will also
say it was
say,
a pretty amazing moment.
Talking about moments that we remember, the Huskies, they were a number 1 seed, right? Kind of brutal. I don't really remember. It was beat Montana. Don't really care.
We're just glad not to lose.
That whole NCAA tournament was fine. It was whatever. The moment that they were announced as a number 1 seed is a moment I'll remember. And Brandon Roy playing against Gonzaga and Arizona that year. Those were the 2 best college basketball games that I have ever been to in my entire life. Literally, I cannot.
You're saying that's why you follow college basketball?
I mean, it dates back to Nate Robinson a little bit earlier. Yeah. But B-Roy in those games was at another level of basketball. And you know what? It still fucking sucked. He fouled out. They fouled Brandon Roy out of one of those games.
I mean, I think back to
that's why college basketball is bad, though. They took away a memory that could have mattered because they were like, oh, these 5 fouls. We can't have players out there.
I agree. We're not talking about college basketball right now. The second game I attended in Portland after the Sonics moved, Brandon Roy hit a game-winning 3 in overtime to beat the Rockets. And also the 23-point fourth quarter against Dallas in his second to last, I think his second last home game in Portland before his brief retirement. I mean, that to me is the moment that's bigger than championships. I mean, it's right up there to me with the Dame Lillard series winner against OKC.
No, it's there's no Portland moment when I think about it that I get tingly, but Dame hitting the 3 over Paul George. Come on, that's one of the best moments in Seattle history. And it didn't even happen here.
Not going to dispute it.
You can't tell me that's not the case.
Not going to dispute it.
All right. So Dame Lillard, if he plays his entire career there, again, Kobe is, no matter what happened after, Kobe is the most important athlete in Los Angeles history. He is more important than Magic.
Los Angeles history. I think he's the most important in Lakers history. I can't speak conclusively.
What sport do you think matters more in Los Angeles? Where they didn't have a professional football team for decades at a time? The Dodgers? It's not the same.
Yeah, it probably is Kobe, I guess.
What is it? The Fernando Valenzuela?
I had that thought, yes.
Shohei in Anaheim? I'm sorry, but
Sandy Koufax?
Did he play in Brooklyn? Or was he in LA?
I do not know the timeline of the move from Brooklyn to LA well enough to know that.
Kobe Bryant is the most important player in Los Angeles history. And if he'd been traded to the Bulls, that may still be the case.
No, it would not be the case.
But
no. It would be Magic.
It may still be the case. It probably would be Magic.
He did apparently play in Brooklyn.
Did he ever play in LA?
No, he played in. Yeah, he finished his career in LA, but
Okay.
they moved during his career. So
There's like some college, like having college also, right? Like Kareem playing at UCLA and with the Lakers, but like to any person,
still not as beloved. I mean,
It's not
with
even
all due
close.
respect to Kareem.
So, and part of that is him playing his entire career in LA, and I
Yeah.
think Dame might understand that. That's all I'm saying. For everybody who's people are so fucking quick to just trade players off in the NBA because you got to get assets, and there's more than just getting assets. You know what I mean?
But sometimes
where
you
are the
end up
Pelicans
not
right now?
playing your entire career with that team, and you don't get the assets.
Sure. Bradley Beal doesn't fucking matter, though. I'm sorry. Bradley Beal does not matter. Kevin Durant doesn't matter anywhere. Kevin Durant matters more in Seattle than he does.
Bradley Beal played almost as many years in DC as
He
Dame
just
played in
didn't
Portland.
play as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality, though. Damian Lillard matters in the city of Portland.
I agree. So New York food.
It's all fucking people on Reddit trading off Dame Lillard. Just fucking get over it.
On Friday night,
All right.
at this dinner where Tim Bontemps got recognized afterwards. We went to the Gugu Room, which is a
The Google Room.
very
31
similar
PV?
very similar, not to be confused. On the Lower East Side, which was like Filipino and Japanese fusion, and like there were a couple of plates that we got that maybe weren't exemplary, but everything was good. I cannot recommend it highly enough. The spam fries were a highlight. I'm
Spam fries?
Yeah, they
How
had,
do you
like-
get spam on fries.
well, no, they had like spam cut up into little
okay.
fry like.
Got it.
Let's see, and then the kare kare. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Was quite outstanding. It was definitely like we all enjoyed the meal tremendously. Saturday for lunch went to Emily in Brooklyn, which is a pizza spot that is also known for its burger. Did not have the burger. My friend Eden had already had it a few weeks back, and it didn't seem like a me-style burger. It's like a very thick patty, so even though it's like dry-aged and extremely touted, I still didn't know, but had also
Stick
heard
to pizza, New York.
that the karaage that they have was
Oh.
life-changing.
Really?
And I had it. It's gochujang flavored, like spiced, and it was maybe up there with the best fried chicken I've had in my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was like so perfectly cooked. It was incredible.
What do you get a thigh? What do you?
I mean, karaage is, I think it's made of thighs, but it's
like
cut up
chicken
into
thigh?
the smaller boneless pieces, and then that's the Japanese style fried chicken. And we had some karaage during our search, but nothing that rose to this level, I would say. Again, it was just perfectly cooked. There was a homemade ranch, like house-made ranch that came with it that was
Nice.
incredible as a dipping
In
sauce.
the Japanese style.
Yeah, yes.
Uh-huh.
Classic tradition. The pizza was good, but the karaage was outstanding there.
All right.
Sunday,
Okay.
I took as a direct challenge from you, Tristan Caracino,
Wow.
to find good donuts
Oh my God.
in New York City, and I feel like I did. Was again in Brooklyn because this was before I went to
You
the
went
Liberty
to a
game at
different
Barclays
place.
Center. Donut Plan.
Did I go? I didn't go there.
You did not. I mean, I looked at the menu. It definitely was not one of the places you went. They did not specialize in enormous donuts. I had a couple of donuts. I had the creme. Their specialty is a creme brulee, which I did not expect to be filled, but was.
Okay.
And it was a little on the small side.
Donut
but
plant.
Donut Plant. And DOUGH.
Well, all the
donut.
best donuts are spelled that way.
Yes. No, not all the best. So that was quite outstanding. It was a little on the small side, but perfectly delicious. Also had a peanut butter and jelly filled. It was kind of like a square ring. I don't know if that's
I
those
see
two
it right
things are
there.
contradictory.
Yeah.
And it tasted just like a PBJ. It was really an incredible facsimile.
Donuts of the Gods by New York Times / Zach Lowe.
So So next time you go to
From Moab,
Brooklyn,
Utah, not
or-
that one, not the one who lives in New York.
I think they have multiple locations in the New York area. It's not just in Brooklyn. So next time you go to New York, you have to check out Donut Plant and see whether you agree that that New York can in fact do good donuts.
Okay.
So I think that's all I had for New York food. But I definitely was excited to prove you, Tristan Carcino, wrong about that.
Did I say that every donut in New York was bad?
Yes.
These look pretty good.
They look good because they are good.
Fresh blueberry sour donut.
I never
They got sour donuts now.
I never
It's just
did
sour now.
saw a review, but Eden did
Goza donuts.
there's like a cheese donut,
Ooh,
which basically
yes.
I had a little bite of that, pasted like cheese bread. It was kind of wild. It was not very donutty to me at all, but it was well done. So
That
donut.
sounds great to me. Well, what are these? They've got donuts where it's like a donut on top and like a bunch of. Is that what it was?
Donut ice cream sandwich.
Those are donut ice cream sandwiches.
I did not have those, but they do look quite good.
Man, I should have gone here.
Yeah, I agree.
Trying to see friggin'.
Well, sadly, while I was in New York over the weekend, one of the events
Spider-Man.
I missed
Anyway.
was the Champions of Change All-Star Basketball game, and it's time to recap that. Last Friday was a huge day for third Pelton brother Jake One. Not only did his new album with Seattle artist Travis Thompson, Wolves in White Tees, drop, he also was part of the Champions of Change All-Star Basketball game. Jake, where does this rank among the greatest days of your life?
Man, I was really thinking about this because just being a kid going to the Coliseum and watching the Sonics, and that just being like, one of my favorite memories of, my life and stuff like that, and how much that meant to me to be able to get on that court and just shoot around was crazy. And then to get play in a game and, get benched by Gary Payton, who was like my childhood hero. Get yelled at by Gary Payton. It was all special. I mean, this is like everything you would have expected it to be.
Okay, take us behind the scenes. What
I
was
know,
Gary
yeah,
Payton
getting
yelling
yelled
at
at
you?
by Gary Payton. What's funny?
I mean, I wouldn't say he was yelling at me specifically. It was, it's kind of what you'd expect the Gary Payton coaching mantra to be. It was a lot of like, play some defense, man. Get the ball, man. Quit turning over, man. What was another one? There's a couple. Everything was followed by a main. And yeah, he, Sue Bird was supposed to be helping out the coaching duties. She clearly was like, I'm not messing with that. I'm good. She tapped out real quick on that. But yeah, it was just thoroughly entertaining, man. Like we were just being in the locker room with all these guys. Like, oh, why am I here? This is nuts.
Take us through the teams. I don't know if I saw a specific set of rosters for the
So
two sides.
on the surface, my team definitely should not have had a chance. I mean, our team was Doug Baldwin was our captain. I don't think he did a great job drafting. He didn't. Our team turned out all right, but it was Doug, Spencer Hawes, Rodney Stuckey, who I hadn't seen in a long time. This amazing women's player from Stanford, Cameron Brink. Oh my God, she made me a fan just watching her and just how she was carrying herself. The amount of shit she was talking, it was special.
Possible 2023 Seattle Storm first round pick.
I mean, she's got to be like one of the top picks of the draft, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
This was not normal. She was like 6'7" or some shit, and hitting sidestep threes and talking shit to Sherman, and just it was pretty nuts. Who else was on my team? Mariner pitcher Charlie Furbush. He got benched. Me and him spent a lot of time on the bench together. So yeah, it was him. Brian Walters was also on our team of the Seahawks. I think Jerron Johnson. One of the guys from Love Is Blind. I think Kwame. No, I might have their name wrong. Who else? This girl Katie, who's plays for Garfield, really good. Going to Oregon, boo.
Wow,
Yeah, just
and a high
announced
school
that
player,
commitment
right?
over the weekend.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, good for her. I'm gonna be rooting for her, but so that was our team. I might be missing somebody. Their team was Isaiah Thomas, Jamal Crawford, Will Conroy, Mike Bennett, um, Averill. Um, some of the other ones I wasn't sure who they were. They had some comedian dudes that they just kept putting out there. I was like, damn, they're playing their guy. They're playing everybody on their team. GP not of that.
That's that was Adam Ray, right?
Adam Ray. There you go. I can't remember who else was on their team. That was like, oh, Sherman. Richard Sherman was on the other team. So yeah, I mean, if you would have lined us up, it would have looked pretty bad for us. But somehow we were winning by like 7 with a minute left, and we kind of folded, I guess, and missed some free throws. And they did some cheating, I think, and they somehow went. Jamal hit like a 3 to put it to overtime. Of course he did. And I think I played maybe 5 or 6 minutes in the first half, and then GP benched everybody, including Brian Walters, who was like really good, and a couple other guys that were actually
You
good.
didn't play at all in the second half?
I didn't play at all in the second half. But
Oh my God.
Neither did Brian Walters or Furbush, or he put in. All right, I'll just put it like this: he put in the dude from Love Is Blind over Brian Walters, who's like a professional athlete. You know what I mean? Like, what
definitely the white guys were on the bench during the second half.
I mean, might have been some profiling going on. I got many a text about that when I got off the court. But I would have wanted to play in the third. When the fourth came and I started seeing Sherman and Mike. Mike's my boy. That's how I even played Mike Bennett. When I started seeing them fouling people hard, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of cool being on the bench, because I don't think I would have survived that.
You just had an amazing seat by that point.
Yeah, I was having fun. But yeah, it was a trip, man. It was very strange. I mean, I don't think I played in front of more than 500 people since high school. So like, just even that alone was strange. I mean, I've been on stage in front of a lot of people, but I kind of know what I'm doing.
Who was the coach of the other team? Was it Jamal?
Martellus Bennett, who is also a friend of mine, who declared for the NBA draft out of high school, the same class as Martell Webster, and I can't remember who else he said, who is not playing basketball because he's working on his samurai skills. So
that makes sense. Yeah,
we didn't get him out there on the court, but he was the coach on the other. Mike Bennett's dad got a couple minutes. Jewel Lloyd was the other coach. Yeah, right.
And they played everybody like throughout.
They played everybody. I mean, the comedian dude was out there. I mean, they were throwing, and guys were throwing up shots too. I mean, let's not get it twisted. They were showing. When I was in the game, I was not playing. I was playing with the B team for sure, junior varsity. Maybe Doug was out there, and I think Charlie Furbush. But like, the ball just didn't find me. I had like one block steal. I got the ball and I passed it. Never came back.
Okay, so you did not take a shot in the game.
And I will say, in warmups, I probably hit like 80% of my shots. I felt good. I would have made some shots, I think.
Okay.
Who did you defend?
Yeah, who did you defend?
I defended. See, I'm not good with soccer, but I think the guy's name was Lamar Nagel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Federal Way natives, longtime sounder.
So Lamar Nagel, on like the second possession, I saw the look in his eyes. And I'm like, oh shit, he's about to sprint. How am I going to do this? So
see, I told you last week about soccer players. You always know the soccer players at pickup.
He took off on my ass, man, and I managed to stay with him. It was kind of shocking. I was like, yo, my legs are still here. I'm like still upright. And he made a move, and I stripped the ball from him. But
wow,
that was
okay.
I got so bored, I started boxing out and stuff. I was like doing things I don't normally do on the basketball court.
It was on some Arnie Duncan shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about your game generally. Like, let's say that you played the full game. Let's say the ball got to you more. What are you a sharpshooter?
That's all I do. I mean, I just shoot. Yeah, I can dribble a little bit. Pretty good passer. Shooting. That's it. And pretty much, yeah, mostly threes at this point. I mean, I know we were doing the layup line, and I was like, wow, I don't remember taking like a regular layup in so long. Just attempting a left-handed layup, like that was weird. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had a lot of my friends that play with me were like, man, you should have been out there. Like, and yeah, but like, and it's funny at halftime, Jamal's like, man, you got to go take the ball. And I'm like, I'm not taking the ball from Doug Baldwin. It's his game. Like, supposed to push him out the way and be like, nah, I got this. I didn't want that either. So
take the ball. It's
It
just
was.
honestly, it's great to have Jamal Crawford tell you that. Even if it didn't
I mean,
happen,
I
it's
just
still
think
a
he
good
wanted
moment.
me to look stupid. Honestly, he was like, "Man, I thought you had a jumper. Where you at?" I'm like, "Man, I ain't even touched the ball." He's like, Sometimes you got to go get the ball."
When you're Jamal Crawford, that is true.
I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's kind of like your thing, It'd be like me telling him, "Man, go play that court on stage." Probably wouldn't go well.
Yeah. Uh, I I bet DJ Trunks, who is DJing the game, the DJ for the Kraken and the
Okay.
Storm, on Sunday right after y'all had played, and I was like, "Oh, do you know Jake? Jake won," and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "How did he play in the game?" And he responded, "Jake one is an excellent DJ," and at that point, that's how I knew. I was like, "Oh man, maybe Jake didn't score any buckets in this one," but it sounds to
I
me
just
like the ball just didn't hit your hands.
I just didn't get the opportunity. But I mean, who knows? I might have missed some too. I mean, it was like, some good basketball players and some bad ones. So, it's not always going to be a fluid game. They were playing hard, man. Doug was really trying to win. So, I mean, I don't know. He might have intercepted like 6 or 7 passes. Like, he was trying hard. They were going all out. I thought Mike Bennett could have injured Cameron Brink, the girl from Stanford. They were on a fast break, and I was like, "Ooh, this could go bad." Like, it just didn't look like it was going to be a good outcome. But she's tough. She took the foul and just did not care. So
So my whole understanding of what happened at the end of this game is from third Pelton brother Mike Sean Dugar's account on Twitter from sitting courtside wearing sunglasses in the front row.
they cheated. I mean, essentially.
So there was apparently a coach's challenge with 12 seconds left. I didn't know this was part of the rules
I don't think anybody did. Yeah.
in the celebrity game. How did they review something?
Not only was it a coach's challenge, every time that like one of their guys got fouled, it was a football player. They had Jewel Lloyd shoot the free throws
Whoa, okay, that's
because
not
we know
fair.
Sherm was not about to make 2 free throws like in that situation. So yeah, it was a little. They're playing a little loose with the rules, for sure, for sure.
But Sherm did apparently tie the game with a half second left.
I think it was it April? I don't know. We fell apart so bad. It was just like, and this, our fearless leader GP, man, he just didn't make the right adjustments, and could have thrown maybe the NFL athlete that's still in good shape, Walters, on the floor instead of the guy from Love Is Blind. I mean, that might have helped. It might have got out to a bigger lead. But
I like that your criticism is not playing you, but it's about not playing Brian
I was
Walters.
more offended for him because I'm like, come on, you're like a real athlete. Like,
I feel like I've actually heard that Brian Walters is a really good basketball player too.
Well, I did see him last year because he played.
he
in the
scored
game.
like 8 points in the first half and was like clearly a good basketball player. And then he was just like, nah, you got to sit down. And then, of course, Spencer sat out the second half because he had like a Bandon trip that he didn't want to get hurt for. So Bandon Dunes is like a golf resort. So, I feel him. I would have probably done the same thing.
Oh, that is a very Spencer Haas
The
sentence.
most Spencer Haas thing to do.
So yeah, it was a lot of crazy, unexpected twists. It was weird being in the locker room. And I was like, hold on, like, and I was like, damn, what if you have to pee? Like, this is like a long ass run to take a piss, like in the middle of the game. I guess you're just done.
These are the things you don't think about until you're on
The
the
stuff
bench
you
at
do
Granite
not think
Fletcher
about.
Arena.
All them guys brought like extra change of clothes and everything. He was taking a shower. I'm like, man, I don't go to a place to take a shower. I'm like out of there. You know what I mean? I'm playing in a random gym somewhere.
They came to
So
play.
yeah, it was interesting. It was super interesting.
I feel like that's what I'm most impressed with though, is that the level of competition was actually higher. A lot of these celebrity games, right? It's like the All-Star game or something.
Right.
But it sounds like the finish was at least interesting.
They were trying. I mean, they were trying for sure. And I think, I think a lot of those guys aren't necessarily basketball players, but they're still professional athletes. Even if they're not in shape, they still just got that pride. They don't want to lose.
And Jamal Crawford hits the game-winning three to decide this
I
one in
mean,
overtime.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of made sense. You know what I mean? That's what he does. I've seen him do it many a time. So, and he was telling me he hasn't even been playing a lot since he's on TV so much now. getting into his hoop time.
You know, playing a lot for Jamal Crawford is like I'm not playing 3 times a day. Might be
Right.
not playing a lot for him.
I think he said he's only been playing like once or twice a week, which for
Okay.
him is like crazy, right? That's not normal.
Well,
Um,
if you listened to his advice, that could have been you, Jake.
I know, man. I did like, at first I'm not gonna lie, I was a little rattled the first couple of times up and down the court, and I was like, hold on, these guys aren't even like, they're not overwhelming like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that. So, yeah, the ball just didn't find me. I'm a lobby Mike to play again next year. I mean, I didn't even. He asked me to play in this thing, and I was like, damn, am I going to be an embarrassment? I had all these things going through my head, like, do I want to do this? This is not like, yeah, I play basketball, but I mean, against professional athletes, I don't know. I mean, every once in a while, I might see a professional athlete out there. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was like overwhelming on that level. But
I've seen you play with Trevon Edwards, who was a professional basketball player once upon a
was
time.
he? No way.
Yeah, he got paid. Yeah, he played in the G League for a minute.
If you ever withdrew a check anywhere, you're a professional basketball player.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that. I like that.
When you're describing this experience, like 20 years from now, it comes up. Hey, I maybe we're the ones telling people, hey, did you know he once played in a celebrity basketball game? What's going to be the sentence you use to describe it?
Damn, sentence. I would say, I mean, my daughter was just like, I'd say that the biggest thing was like my daughter was like, you were by far the oldest person on the court. that was my takeaway. And next year I might get a trainer. I might might get serious about this so I could play like 7 minutes next year and maybe get a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe, we'll see.
Benched by Gary Payton.
I mean, that's pretty cool too. I mean, and it's one of my childhood heroes. So like, didn't like exactly get yelled at by him, but it wasn't shower with praise either. So it's like kind of 50-50.
I will say Adam Ray is 41, so not by that far.
Okay,
were you the
and I
oldest
felt
player on
like
the
he
court.
wouldn't have had no chance against me. So like that makes sense, right? Like I was like, I need to guard him, not the fucking soccer players. Dude's fast as shit.
Okay.
So
you got to get Martellus to draft you next year.
we're gonna figure that out. I'm gonna do some lobbying behind the scenes. This is my first time doing something like this. Even like the people were like wearing their outfits to come in the tunnel to get filmed and shit. I'm not thinking about this. Like it's just not like just not part of the plan when I go do anything. So it was super interesting. All of it. It was cool. It was an honor to be out there. You see my name on the jumbotron was just hilarious. Yeah, all of it was cool.
All right, tell us about this album and how the collaboration with Travis came together.
So, new album with Travis Thompson. I produced the whole album. I had a couple friends co-produce with me, including one DJ Khalil. I'm gonna relate it all the way back to Seattle Sonics folklore. DJ Khalil is one of my best friends. He's a good basketball player. More importantly, his dad was Walt Hazard, who was an original Sonic.
There you go.
Okay.
So, nice.
Tied it right in for you. But yeah, the album is something I've been working on with Travis for like, I don't know, last year or so. It was really spearheaded by the Titan of management, Wu Sang management. It was kind of his idea. He brought it to me. And I was like,
third Pelton brother.
Another third Pelton brother. Me and him, we have our little bit of quarrels, over some history with Taco Time, but yeah, it was kind of like brought to me by him because I didn't know what Travis had going on necessarily, and came together, and it seems to be getting a lot of love. So yeah, it's exciting. It's cool to do something with somebody from Seattle. Like that's exciting to me too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm learning from Wikipedia that DJ Khalil, not only Walt Hazard's son, was born in Seattle while he was playing.
He was born in Seattle for sure. So I always, we're claiming him. That's what I always tell him. He hasn't been up here in a while, but yeah, he came to town one time. He was like staying with Fred Brown's family. It's like these are the people he was around, as babies and stuff. So
that's all right. You've been benched by Gary Payton, so you're kind of on the same level.
Yeah, I mean, not too different. I mean, I actually was around Gary Payton at Jamal Crawford's wedding And I feel like he was kind of like doing the same thing there. He was just being Gary Payton. Like it's kind of what you would expect him to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the Travis album came out Friday. Um, Streaming on all platforms, all that kind of stuff. Logic is on the album.
Nice.
Jay Worthy's on the album. I don't think any of those guys have sports ties. Maybe. I don't think so. Eric from Flatbush Zombies is on the album, and
Nice.
I'm probably missing somebody. But yeah, it's doing well, and I mean, to me, he's like somebody I met early on when he first started, and I just liked his energy. I just liked how excited he was, and that he was doing something new. I'm not gonna lie, I listened to him because his album was called Ambom. I just thought that was interesting that somebody was repping that area, because like my generation, there wasn't a rapper I heard of from that area of town, so that was cool.
It's definitely the most successful artist from White Center of all time. Has to be.
You never know. It might, people come from everywhere. Lil Mosey came from Montlake Terrace, so you just never know.
Yeah, that's true.
It's wide open now. We're in a different space, like the old way of thinking is gone.
That was good for us as being from basically White Center. Having somebody rep White Center was freaking huge.
I mean, it was cool that and not only, I mean, I feel like there's been people from areas that aren't necessarily celebrated like that, but he repped it. You know what I mean? He was owning it.
And Ambom. It's like, damn, all right.
Yeah, that's part of the charm.
I've been to that AM/PM or whatever. Like, are you all playing any shows together?
I don't know, man. I don't really. I've been really not wanting to do that many shows. Like I'll do some tuxedo stuff here and there, but like I just feel too old to get up there with the rapper and do all that. Like especially when it's some like young jumping around shit. I don't want to like hurt my Achilles like jumping up and down on stage and then I can't swing the golf club or something. Like that would be devastating.
Yeah.
So we'll see though. I mean, I'm sure I'll pop up at some of the things he's doing.
Okay, last important question. The album cover, the two of you standing, is this the Bellevue side of Lake Washington with the skyline in the background?
On. We would never stand on the Bellevue side of Lake Washington.
Well, you couldn't, I guess that's the Bellevue skyline.
Facing Bellevue, yeah. Facing Bellevue.
Where is that?
It's they call it the T-Docks. It's kind of like, I guess, right past Madrona Beach a little bit.
Not an area I know at all.
Madrona, Leschi, somewhere down there. It's like in between those two places. But yeah, kind of like an iconic spot. I mean, I drive Lake Washington every day. I just find a way because I feel like it's one of the perks of living over here. So it was just, it's just one of those things. Every city doesn't have that. So it's cool to throw something like that on the cover.
And the old school Seahawks puffy coat. Very nice.
Yeah, and I actually hadn't worn that since I worn it in my video for Home that was on White Van Music. So, the funny thing about that coat is that was a coat when I was a kid, or I guess in high school. If you had that jacket, you just basically had to be prepared to fight for it at all times. Like somebody's going to try to take it off you. So it's now in a different time. This is not like, the hot coat of the day. So it's always funny to me when I put that thing on. I'm still kind of feel like I got to look around,
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jake. So excited you got to be benched by Gary Payton, and a huge day, certainly. So again, Wolves and White Tees anywhere, streaming everywhere.
And maybe we'll start like what do they call those, like online campaigns? Like, people do like, not a money thing, more like a campaign to give me more minutes next year.
Change.org.
Oh yeah.
Change.org, yeah.
Change.org, give Jake more minutes. Petition to Gary Payton to give Jake more minutes.
Let Jake touch the ball. Like
well, you passed it though, right?
I did, yeah.
You just was it early in your time on the court that you
maybe like the third possession. I mean, it was also running clock, so we were only maybe out there like 6 or 7 possessions. And after the soccer player dude put the afterburners on me, that used up a lot of energy. I'm not gonna lie. My player meter was very low after chasing him down, and shockingly him not beating me all the way down the court. Oh,
do you feel
another
like you were
thing,
open for snipe threes? Sorry, no, I want to hear this.
I was actually. I was. Open
I hate that
times.
when you're standing wide open and nobody finds you, and you're just like, I was gonna hit that.
It just wasn't that kind of game. So there was another pretty funny thing that happened on my time on the court. I was guarding Lamar, and Jamal was coming up the center, and I was like, "Oh shit, he's coming right at me!" And he threw the ball off the backboard, and I was like, "Oh no, this is." I I'm just glad he's older. That's all I could say. I'm glad he's older, and I wasn't on the poster, but there was a good like flash of a half second. I thought like, "Oh shit."
All right. On that note, Jake, thanks so much for joining us.
Peace, guys.
Amazing stuff from Jake.
Not on the court, of course.
He did pretty good.
The coconut cream?
He did really good. With that, it's time for your favorite segment.
Don't burn yourself. We got Mariners hot takes coming at ya.
I'm calling it. Today, June 28th, 2023, the season is over. I'll be honest. I was holding out hope secretly. Julio would put it together. Everyone else would regress to the mean. And it's a sad moment when you realize there is no 14-game win streak coming. Even as I say it, I'm still a little bit thinking that it's happening, but it's not. There is no huge all-star celebration for the Mariners. The problem was you.
Oh, what?
Not you, ESPN's Kevin Pelton, senior
Oh,
writer.
okay.
You, the fan, for having expectations of the Seattle Mariners. Let me say that sentence to you, and you tell me if it feels right. The Seattle Mariners should make the playoffs.
No, not just. I mean, they were. I remember Rick Riz talking about them as a World Series contender as I was walking into the stadium on opening day.
The Seattle Mariners are World Series contenders.
There it is. There it is.
Does that feel right to you?
No.
Something about that doesn't sit right. Much like there are analysts out there saying the Lions will win a playoff game this year. I've seen them. I hear you, Mina. Some things just never happen. This is the sound of me officially giving up hope. Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. So I'm done. Done with these Mariners. All of the secret hope, even the one that I'm still a little bit harboring. The counting of games back in the wild card. That if we could just string together some series wins when it's not against the Nationals. The offense is just about to turn the corner. It was a foolish thing having hope in the Mariners for the 2023 season, and I'm not making that mistake again. I'm done.
This reminds me, it's almost the exact same time. This happened on July 4th. I specifically remember it. The year that I ruled the Sounders out of the playoffs. That might have been the year they won MLS Cup.
That's you're giving me hope again. Don't you dare do that.
The thing that's really irking me, I didn't quite write this up as a hot take.
Okay.
But like everyone's like, oh, was so excited when Cal Raleigh said the other night, like, we're just not a good baseball team or whatever he said. And like booing the Mariners after they lost today in their
Did
season,
they get booed
series.
today?
They did, yes.
It really takes a lot to get people to boo you at a day game because people are half there at a day game. It's like
I
getting
don't know,
fired on your day off.
on
It's
the
like
other hand-
getting booed on a day game.
On the other hand, people are there to get day drunk.
Yeah, you're day drunk and hungover
And
by the end of the
mad,
game.
Mad. The Mariners are basically just as good a team as they were last year. All that's changed is their luck. Like, to have a plus 22 run differential and be 3 games under 500, Scott Service isn't talking about fun differential. Plus 22.
Are you kidding me? I hate that they'll fucking like blow out a team.
Yeah,
and then
11-0
lose
against
4-1.
the
You're
Yankees.
just like,
No, it's
do
not.
that all the time.
It's
And then
not.
the pitcher throws a perfect game in the next game. Did you know that happened?
I was aware. I looked that up. It's not that they're losing 4-1. It's that they're losing 4-3 in 10 innings because they are 4-8 in extra inning games after going 11-5 last year, including 2 losses in the past week. in those. They are 8-15 in one-run games after going 34-22 last year. It's like this entire season has been a karmic correction for everything that went right last year, including the health. Because guess what? Penn Murphy is set to undergo surgery to repair his UCL damage, and Marco Gonzalez has now been shut down from throwing for the next 2 weeks after experiencing nerve irritation in his left forearm and elbow.
I mean, they've actually gotten like some pretty incredible starts from players from AA, but
For sure, but the injury the injury luck on the pitching staff could not possibly have gone a bigger 180 from last year.
here was the thought that I had. I didn't do this as an official hot take, but there are a lot of people out there mad at the Mariners front office for not spending this offseason. And I get it. I was one of those people. And one by one, I pulled up the biggest contracts of the offseason. And in order, by size of contract, each of them is a bigger bomb than the previous one. The amount of players who were signed to $300+ million deals this offseason who have an under 700 OPS and maybe one win is a shocking number. The reality is, by the time, look, this is not a good thing for the marketplace. We're living in a capitalistic society and baseball ain't it. Because by the time you hit free agency as an MLB player and demand a 10-year contract, you're kind of washed by year one. Manny Machado's
Aaron
deal,
Judge is the exception to this, right? Like he's injured right now,
that's
but
an
he's still
extension,
performed.
but he's also injured. That's an extension. Free agents.
He
Every
signed it during free agency.
every single free agent.
It's not like the Nikola Vucevic deal was wildly different because he signed it as an extension on June 28th
But
instead
also,
of waiting
I mean, you're
3
talking
days for
about
free agency.
one outlier, and it's maybe the best hitter in baseball, the
Sure.
most American League home runs of all time.
There's an outlier in next year's free agency. I don't think the Mariners are going to get him, but there is an outlier.
It's a $1 billion outlier. I'm telling you, it is a $1 billion contract. That is the number, in my opinion. That is the only number that it would take for a team like the Mariners to sign.
Look, Mina
So,
Kimes does not think that he should make that much money.
why?
This is a joke about what was going on Twitter today. You didn't see it. You don't get the reference.
But it was like Manny Machado, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, all of these deals, Justin Verlander, Jacob deGrom, every single one of them you could go through, and it's like, these are all players. There's so many players. You can cherry pick the one
You didn't
player.
even mention
Who?
Mitch Haniger.
I mean, Mitch Haniger. Like, it's like they could have traded for Luis Arias, who's hitting almost 400. But if you could just go through and be like, there's 40 bad things that happened this offseason, but the Mariners should have done the one right thing. It's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not how this works. I do think long term that, like, Trey Turner's going to be fine. I think a lot of these players, Manny Machado's going to be fine. These players are having bad starts to their season. I can't really say exactly why that's happening. That it's every single free agent, including Teoscar. Colton Wong just like his career is over, right? Shouts to the home run. But
The listener, the home run.
the sunny day.
Oh, it's sunny now.
I know. Just remember when we had shouts to the sunny day? But I don't understand why every single player who was a free agent has just become consistently awful this season, right? It's like
It should not be as bad as it is.
there is a curse going on, and the Mariners are also part of it.
Somehow
But
the
if what you're
Kraken have
saying
cursed
is that
free
the
agency.
Mariners should have spent more money, and you're like, they should have signed any of these players. Literally, you drop Trey Turner in this roster with the season he is having right now, because the complaint is not 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. The complaint is this year.
Right.
You drop Trey Turner in that roster, he is worth less wins than J.P. Crawford.
I mean, they could have played both of them and moved J.P. Crawford to second. But yes, point taken.
It's just that I don't think there was a move to be made. Sometimes two things can be true at the same time. That Jerry DiPoto did not put together a good enough offseason to improve the Mariners, and they shouldn't have spent money on these players.
Yeah.
Both of those things are true at the same
Or
time.
Mariners ownership can be cheap, and they dodged a lot of
Yes.
bad contracts.
Because right now, if the Mariners had the record that they had, and they owed somebody $350 million over 11 years, we would be like, this is one of the biggest fuck-ups of all time. They went all in on a year when you shouldn't have gone all in.
kind of the Blazers roster.
There's no Scoot Henderson on the Mariners.
Fair. You don't get to take your way into his good picks.
Julio is still Scoot, but like that. So
Julio.
I also want to mention
Julio is also a Dame. somehow.
that's just I went and looked at all the biggest contracts. I saw a TikTok where it was like ranking the 10 worst contracts of the offseason, and it was the 10 biggest contracts all in a row. There was not a good one. The players who've signed, like Cody Bellinger, like there are good contracts that happened, but it's not even necessarily there was good process. They just got lucky.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of players who have played well this year who were signed over the offseason, but it's not like the process that went into it. Anybody would have acted differently, or the Mariners would have acted differently. What the Mariners would have done is they would have signed one of these players for $350 million in 11 years, and they would have been fucking awful.
Well, speaking of...
So wait, no, I've got a Mariners thing.
no. Oh.
I've got my third take of the day. That was take number
This is a combined 4 takes because I had one.
all takes.
Wow.
Even after we retired takes. The last thing.
This retirement
actually
was
got a
like,
fifth.
like
Hold on.
Jordan's first retirement.
I didn't flesh out this take, but how dare the Mariners have an Italian-American Heritage Night after sending Sam Haggerty down?
Fair question.
You know what the record is after they sent Sam Haggerty
It's
down.
not good.
And it's not good. Thank you, Mariners. Dylan Moore, he's hitting 67. Why don't you fucking DFA Dylan Moore? If we're DFAing
Does
players,
he have
send him down.
options?
Send down Dylan Moore and call up Sam Haggerty, Mariners. Dylan Moore, like, I think he was the last out of the game in the extra innings game, and I was like, I just turn off the TV now.
Sam Haggerty is hitting 205 at Tacoma.
I don't care. That's better than .67. What was he hitting in the majors?
191.
191 is a lot better than under 100. Dylan Moore is not a capable Major League Baseball player, as is a lot of the Mariners roster. Okay, so the other thing that I want to mention, this is take number 4. Whatever.
5?
I was very... Is Festa still on the roster?
No.
They had an Italian-American Heritage Night. I'm this close to standing. They had an Italian-American Heritage Night where they systematically, one by one, rid themselves of Italians on the roster. What type of pandering-ass shit was that? Without even having the gall or the gumption to have an Italian player on your roster. When the Mariners were propelled to the playoffs by Italians last year. This year they said, we're good. We're good on that. Why is it that Tommy LaStella was released and not Colton Wong? Why is it that Tommy LaStella was released and not Dylan Moore? I don't think I have to ask that question again. We know what happened to Joe DiMaggio's parents. But
Again,
But-
this is an anti-Italian bias from Mariners president Jerry DePoto.
speaking of Jerry DePoto, this is my last take. So my children are at baseball camp this week, having the time of their lives. They love it. And at the camp, what they do is there's like a champion of each day, and at the end of the camp, it ends tomorrow. They're going to choose a champ of the camp. And if you're chosen as champ of the camp, which I will say, I think one of the children has a chance, maybe even both. I think they're in the mix. Is you get free camp the next year, and you get one game in the Mariners front office box with Jerry DePoto
Wait, for
at
real?
the game. And I was like, okay, I hope we win that because I've got some thoughts. I was like, that actually is great. I'm gonna need one of you to win that because I just look, I've got some perspectives.
Just look and know that, you've got thoughts for Jerry DePoto.
It's so funny because I just watched the Seinfeld episode, The Opposite, where George Costanza tells George Steinbrenner what he thinks of it. And I'm like, maybe that'll be me.
I mean, the best one is when Steinbrenner, air quotes, comes to the Costanza home because George is presumed dead, right? That's right. And
He's gonna get traded for some chicken beer,
then the rant
all chicken
about
everything.
the rant from Frank Costanza about trading Jay Buhner for Ken
Jay
Phelps.
Buhner.
My scouts are telling me Ken Phelps.
Ken Phelps.
Especially knowing that it's Larry David now.
That's gonna be Teoscar Hernandez. Colton Wong.
Unfortunately, I do not think they have traded away Jay Buhner in any of those deals.
I had the thought that Jared Kelenic is the new Jay Buhner. I'll tell Jerry about it. That's all. I'll go all positive. If my children are champ at the camp, I'll go all positive and tell them how I really respected that he stuck with Jared Kelenic.
How much you appreciated that he brought Sam Hager to the Mariners in the first place.
Wow, I never even thought about that. Jerry DiPoto's Italian.
You've never thought about it? We discussed it on the pod
Have
a few weeks ago.
We have an Italian GM.
When they started the season with 3 Italian Americans on the roster and an Italian American GM, yes, I brought it up.
That must
or
have
president.
crushed him. I'm going to blame everybody else. I'm blaming John Stanton for all of this. John Stanton.
GM Justin Hollander.
Yeah, Justin
behind all
Hollander and
these
John Stanton are holding back GM Jerry DiPoto.
You just need to get in his ear and convince him.
Yeah, I'll just come with the stats about Dylan Moore and Sam Haggerty. Be like, Sam Haggerty's hitting a lot better than Dylan Moore. He also Sam Haggerty played first base this year. Sam Haggerty does everything a lot faster. Anyway, that's the end of my takes.
And time for the rundown.
Baseball. I don't know why we have 5 takes on this team. Lost 2 out of the 3 to the Nationals. The extra innings loss. Do you know what the worst part about it was? Is that I willed it to happen.
You willed it to happen?
I did. The bases were. I swear. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Look, I'm a little obsessed with the darkness. Was
it doesn't mean the band.
I believe in a thing called love. I want the longest possible baseball game of all time to happen. That's my biggest issue. So you were
rooting against the Mariners in the hopes that there was going to be a 19-inning game with ghost runners?
I just looked. If it's like 9:40 p.m., they were going to win the game too easily when the bases were loaded with nobody out. And then
we have really pinpointed the problem here.
Yeah, and then things right when the Mariners didn't score a run that inning, I was like, ooh. I was like, maybe should have been cheering for a sac fly there.
You did the Bill Lumberg.
Might have read that situation wrong.
Gonna need you to come into work.
Scored so many runs. Were you home by this? Were you?
No, I didn't. Oh, was I home by this?
Yeah, you were flying.
My flight.
This was yesterday.
Oh, was this yesterday?
Yeah, no, this is yesterday. It was like the Chris Thomas double down the line, hitting the ball down the line pass.
I think I saw the tweets about the Mariners losing, and that's when I remembered the game was on.
That is the number one and most brutal way to give up runs. There's 2 outs. You're like, I think we're getting out of this. And then the double down the line, you're like, ooh. Anyway, yeah. And then Dylan Moore did not do anything. Ended the game. Whereas Sam Haggerty
was in Tacoma.
Yeah.
All right, the roundup. We start with the Kraken. We've got their schedule starting in Las Vegas for the ring ceremony for the Golden Knights.
Really rubbing
it
in
the
there.
Season opener on October 10th as part of an ESPN triple header. Those teams, of course, will also play New Year's Day at T-Mobile Park for the 2024 Winter Classic.
Really trying to make this into a rivalry.
They are. The Kraken's home opener at Climate Pledge Arena will be a rematch against the Colorado Avalanche on October 17th, which also happens to be NBA opening night, so I will not be paying close attention to that game. Tuesday was the NHL draft. The Kraken selected forward Edwards. I don't know how to pronounce his last name and could not find that online. An 18-year-old Czechia native.
Probably not an Italian then.
I know, probably not. ESPN had him rated 4th among international skaters. Their analysis from Kristen Shilton said that Seattle prioritizes its depth over being particularly flashy, and Saul definitely fits that bill. He's a solid, responsible player all around who can add offensively.
Cool.
So another player like Shane Wright, who dropped over the course of the year, was much more highly rated, it seems, as a younger amateur. Sounders gave up a goal Wednesday in the opening minute at LAFC, never found a way to equalize with just 2 shots on goal. On Saturday, hosting Orlando City SC, neither team could finish on a combined 29 shots, just 5 of them on goal. The results meant the Sounders finished June winless with just 3 points from
really
4 matches.
Skating by in this horrible Mariners month.
Well, the thing is, historically, the Sounders and Mariners have never been good at the same time. But usually one of them is always good. If neither of them, the Sounders will make the playoffs most likely, but if neither of them made the playoffs, it would be a remarkable outcome. The results meant this. Raul Ruiz missed Saturday's match after his father passed away, so condolences to Raul Ruiz, but he has rejoined the team, will be available this weekend. Is the Kraken and the Sounders head to Houston with third place in the Western Conference on the line. No, I guess they're hosting them. Don't head to Houston. Ignore that. The Dynamo 2 points back in the standings with a match in hand. Houston is led by Moroccan international Amine Bassi, whose 8 goals are tied for 8th in MLS. Some tough injury news for the Sounders is Javier Arriaga suffered a quadriceps strain while playing internationally, expected to miss 8 to 10 weeks. U.S. men's national team drew Jamaica in the Gold Cup opener over the weekend. I believe that was on Saturday. Jordan Morris left that game after 55 minutes due to knee discomfort. So not terribly encouraging news there on Jordan Morris. The news better for OL Reign, who continued their domination of the hated San Diego Wave with a 2-1 win Saturday in San Diego, getting both goals via Bethany Balser headers. Balser scored in the 8th minute to open scoring, then did it again in the 77th minute for the winner after rookie Jaden Shaw scored for the Wave shortly into the second half. The win lifted the Reign out of a tie with San Diego and into a tie for second in the NWSL standings. That was the last game, as I mentioned earlier, for the Reign's U.S. women's national team players before their World Cup training camp started on Monday. Without them, the Reign still won 1-0 Wednesday
Who needs them?
in Portland in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Well, it turns out that the Thorns also have many players on the U.S. women's national team.
I assume maybe a lot of these teams do.
No, there's 23 players in the roster. The Reign having 5 is a pretty high percentage of them, but Portland also has a lot. Reign got the game's only goal from Elise Bennett in the second half. Win moves them 6 points ahead of any other West team in the NWSL Challenge Cup standings. They still have not allowed a goal in any of their 4 Challenge Cup games, winning 3 of the 4. So certainly in the driver's seat to advance into the semifinals in the NWSL Challenge Cup. It's back to league action Saturday as the Reign host Hard Luck Racing Louisville, which has just 3 wins in 13 games, despite a +2 goal differential. They are truly the Mariners of the NWSL.
Many people are saying that. A lot of people are comparing Racing Louisville to the Mariners.
Seattle Storm split home games last week, losing Thursday to Indiana and then blowing out the Phoenix Mercury on Saturday night, a game that was Phoenix coach Vanessa Nygaard's last game before being fired as head coach on Sunday. Storm then lost a high-scoring affair Tuesday in Minnesota with Nefisis Collier scoring 33 points for the Lynx, who they'll face again this Thursday at home back at Climate Pledge Arena. A couple of bright spots for the Storm besides all-star starter Jewel Lloyd. Ivana Dojkic continues to play well in a starting role, averaging 11.4 points and 5.0 assists per game while shooting 42% from three-point range. And recent pickup Joyner Holmes had 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks against Phoenix, playing extended minutes with Jordan Horston sidelined by a shoulder injury. Then Holmes had 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists at Minnesota. She's looking like a keeper, even if the Storm are able to eventually add Gabby Williams to their roster, as has long been discussed and rumored. Storm again home on Thursday night, hosting the Minnesota Lynx in the return game of the home and home there. Beyond that, it will be... did not put this in the notes, so I got to fill as I load this on ESPN. Sunday, it's Brianna Stewart's second and final return of the season with the New York Liberty, and that's the only game they play
so soon.
Week. Yeah. So, be 2 consecutive Sundays for me seeing Stewie in person. All right, we wrap up this week with UW football, which added 9 verbal commits to the 2024 class in the past week, having previously held just 1, the fewest at that point of any Power 5 team. So much woofing from Kalen DeBoer. Really heavy on front 7 defenders with a pair of interior defensive linemen, an edge rusher, and an off-ball linebacker. Certainly you'll be excited about the interior defensive linemen. And then pass catchers with a pair of wide receivers and a tight end, but also Portland cornerback Elias Johnson and quarterback Demarcus Davis. Davis, a late rising prospect who was a reserve his sophomore year at Junipero Serra High School behind current Texas freshman Malik Murphy.
I loved seeing all the woofs. I love the positions of these players as well.
Yeah. No offensive linemen. I know you would like to see that.
I do love to see offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But seeing so many defensive linemen, wide receivers, tight ends, wide receivers is a little bit easier to get. But
their highest rated recruit, I think, of this group is a wide receiver.
and I think that's how it should be. But seeing the interior defensive lineman, that you literally cannot have enough. I think this program, and I think what Kalen DeBoer is building, is eerily similar to Chris Peterson. They're not necessarily going after the highest possible rated recruits. You see a lot of 3-star players.
It's not the Rick Neuheisel finishing second or third in the race for Kellen Winslow.
You see 3-star, 4-star players, and they're looking for players that are the players like, Demarcus Davis, right? The late rising players, right?
And the players who are fits for their system.
And Kalen DeBoer, ultimately, it doesn't matter where Michael Penix was recruited, right? What matters is that Michael Penix is performing on the field.
Well, the other thing that doesn't necessarily matter is where you're recruited at all when a large percentage of your production is made up with transfers.
Yes. I mean, I agree with that as well, where, signing a quarterback, we'll see. But
Right.
I think that their approach is eerily similar, like I said, to Chris Peterson and what they're doing and what they're building. I think that Kalen DeBoer is building something very sustainable here. This is not just 1 year. He's building a program at the University of Washington. And I think these signings help kind of push that conversation forward.
Yeah. So
it's exciting. I mean, what's going on at UW right now with college football is changing a lot at the moment. And what is happening on the field, recruiting wise, every other capacity at UW is extraordinarily exciting. And I think that Kalen DeBoer, as long as he's the coach of the University of Washington, I think that this program is in a really, really healthy place.
So the other news we got on Wednesday is that Seahawks training camp has an official start date, July 25th. It is not far away. Football is coming.
You can kind of feel it. Can you feel it?
I don't know if I can feel it yet. It's not even the 4th of July. You got to get to the 4th of July to feel it.
I'll tell you, I can smell football.
Can you? Just in the air.
I can smell and I can feel football right now. Well, also the baseball season's over. So that makes it a little bit easier.
July 25th, as we record this, I believe is, less than 4 weeks away.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be here in no time. This summer is kind of flying by, even though it started last week.
And it was not flying by for me the 36 hours I spent traveling home from Seattle, or home from
I
New
just
York City.
kind of like, and looking out, and I know that it's going to feel like you just woke up and all of a sudden it's August 15th or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the last piece is that people don't really respect and notice enough Wilhelm
Breidenbach.
Breidenbach.
You gotta get that R in there. Breidenbach.
Breidenbach.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your spelling here.
Oh, do I have it wrong? Oh, it is Breidenbach, isn't it? Yep.
So, I mentioned to Katie last week. We recorded our podcast. We talked about our boy Wilhelm Breidenbach.
Yep.
Most important Husky since Brandon Roy, maybe. I mean, how far are we going back?
Let's say Matisse Thybulle.
Okay, that's not particularly respectful to the Breidenbach era. But I mentioned to Katie, have you seen Wilhelm Breidenbach? And she had not.
It was my typo. It is Breidenbach.
Breidenbach.
I was right about it.
And she had not.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to go out of my way to pull up a photo and be like, this is the savior of the program.
Oh, no.
We're now rallying around Mike Hopkins because he got that Breidenbach commitment to the University of Washington. And Katie was a little bit shocked and mildly offended that I brought it up. But I did want to say that as we continue to go on, this is one of those things, we're underground right now, right? We're indie in this.
The Breidenbach fan club?
The Breidenbach era that's happening. As the college basketball season starts happening, people are going to start to take notice every week, right?
I agree with that, yes.
This is like you knew Austin Reeves the day that the Lakers signed him. This is not...
Austin Reeves was on our players to watch, wasn't he?
I don't know, but I remember one time This was years ago. There was like the FIBA World Championships or something, and Jokic went off. Do you remember that?
I think it may have been the Olympics.
What?
I think it may have been the Olympics.
In the Olympics, there was some game where Jokic just like went totally nuts, and I was like, congrats, ESPN's Kevin Pelton. I wished you a congrats because of you were so early on the Jokic bandwagon, and now this motherfucker's winning an NBA championship, and everybody's talking about how Jokic is better than Larry Bird. So
yes, Austin Reeves was on the 2021
there
Players
it
to Watch
is.
list.
There it is. Or at least ESPN is milking the content of Dennis Rodman saying that Jokic is better than Larry Bird for multiple days. But
Oh, they love that. Last year's Players to Watch list has not aged as well, but you know who was on it?
who is that? Brian Bach?
No. It's an NBA player, yes. Christian Brown.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it was part of the Nuggets tradition.
That's actually pretty funny. I hadn't heard of him until like game 3 of the
No,
finals.
again, you had. Again, I had told you about it.
No, but I
You
hadn't,
just
it
didn't
hadn't
remember.
sunk in. Anyway, people are going to one by one be like, what's happening here? As they see the Huskies winning games and they see Bryden Bach. This is a movement and it cannot be stopped. So that's the only thing I want to mention is that Katie was late to the party. She needed me to remind her. She's probably forgotten. That's how Katie is.
You're saying that it was an MVP move to tell her about this?
We'll see.
Okay. On that note,
Thanks for listening.
thanks.